Good morning. I said in pre-talk that you knew it was going to be a good morning because we had Spencer coming, and now everyone has been positively giddy to have them back. They're a lovely part of our community that is akin to that really fun aunt or uncle who moved away to college or to New York or California, and you thought you'd never see them, but every time they're home visiting, everybody wants to hang out and take them out to coffee, and everybody's so excited. Spencer's here, Spencer's here. Oh, wonderful. So good to have them. And then that last song, was that, what was the title of that? Is it Happy? Happy? It's just incredible. I don't even want to try to add any commentary to it because I'm still sitting with it. And Nelika, thanks for the meditation, the overview of all the different things that we think about when we think about our relationship to space and stuff. So we've been in this series, and we're kind of landing the plane here, hopefully, in this last week. We're in this 4-week overview look at quiet practices for loud times. When it feels like the volume is turned up perpetually, how do we help turn the volume down? Week 1, we talked about silence, the importance, the value of silence, that almost every single wisdom tradition and spiritual practice emphasizes the importance of silence, the importance of creating gaps, reducing stimulation. That silence is not as much of an absence as it is the fertile ground from which growth and transformation can happen. Week 2, we talked about simplicity and how quiet becomes easier when our life becomes less crowded. It's about noticing and reducing friction. Several of the methods that Nelika mentioned are ways that we notice friction in our lives, whether it's organizationally, decluttering our inbox, our text messages, whatever it is. It's these approaches of trying to simplify, not with a place of judgment, not coming at it from a place of judgment, but giving yourself space. And then in week 3, we talked about Sabbath and how Sabbath is this Jewish concept that I feel is one of the most beautiful concepts given to us from that wisdom tradition. The notion of taking rest and ritualizing it and making it repetitive, to force yourself, no, that's not even the right word, to create this rhythm of looking forward to rest. Heschel, who we worked with exclusively last week, talked about this as the climax of living, this high point in life, not something to be dreaded, not an exclusionary stepping away, but an invitation for rest and renewal. And then in this last week, we're borrowing a term that we talked about most recently in our psychedelic summer series back in June, and that is the term setting. Setting. And that's used within the context of psychedelic and therapeutic practice of set and setting, as coined by Timothy Leary. And the setting refers to simply the space, the environment that shapes the experience. And I chose setting primarily because it began with an S and it fit my alliteration. And also because it is a fantastic word to talk about how important this external world is in terms of shaping how a noisy world begins to affect us. So the definition that we used back in June, I'm kind of resurrecting, bringing that back here, is this. Setting is the outer landscape, the physical space, the people, the sounds, the energy. It's the outer landscape that shapes us. Our outer surroundings can either soothe or stir us. Everything from the lighting and the layout of a room to the presence or the absence of trusted companions can influence how safe, how open, and how receptive we are. Setting matters tremendously in our world. In other words, setting is the environment that your nervous system is trying to survive in. And if you've ever been at a place in life where your nervous system is struggling, it's aggravated, it's stressed out, either with anxiety or depression or any of the number of things, you know the importance of finding safe places, safe environments that soothe you instead of stir you and ramp you up. So our environments shape us. James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, and I'll admit I haven't read that one yet because it feels like one of those really aggressively strong books on habits that tell me all the reasons why I should be doing certain things, but I'm sure there's pieces of it that I need to work on. However, his approach to life is this. He says environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. It is this external force that shapes us. We like to think that we make our choices in a neutral world. That like we're rational people making clean and clear decisions. But most of our behavior is a response to what's around us. We're essentially reactionary beings. And in the practice of mindfulness, we turn our attention inward and we begin to notice those reactions. And it's just like when you buy a new car and all of a sudden you see all the people around you that now have that car that you didn't notice before. When you begin to pay attention to your reactions, you begin to notice how reactionary you actually are and how many times you're reacting to environment. Sometimes our settings sabotage us, which ties back to that simplicity that we talked about in week 2. Simplicity is not just simply about doing less, but it's all about, we said, reducing friction. And a huge amount of friction is our environment. So for some of us, like Nalika said, we may need to look at our relationship with things, with stuff. Several people mentioned that in pre-talk. And maybe you're at a season or a stage of life where your relationship with things is a very real and pressing conversation. Maybe it's the shape of the spaces, the spaces that you're in, the environment that you are in. Our settings that we're in send signals of either safety or stress to our nervous system. Our body is always asking, our nervous system is always asking, am I safe? Anybody who's ever done any work with trauma or trauma therapy or has experienced this has probably come across the book by Dr. Vandercook called The Body Keeps the Score. And as a trauma therapist and as someone who's worked with people in extreme trauma, Dr. Vandercook says that traumatized people chronically feel unsafe within their bodies. It doesn't matter where the trauma has come from. It doesn't matter how far back or what we would even call the level or intensity of the trauma. It's not the trauma, it's how we receive the trauma. And because our nervous system is constantly asking, am I safe? Am I safe? And it begins from the time that we are infants growing up. Am I safe? Am I secure in my attachments? And those security in our attachments never goes away. We simply get older and think that we're better at processing things, but we still have a nervous system that asks, am I safe? And we can change our external environment to communicate to our body, to our nervous system, to reinforce cues of safety. Hanifa Washington wrote, and we talked about this in our set and setting, and I wanted to reference this again, as this importance of ideas of the ways that external cues can shape us. She said, you can change or calibrate what an experience may look like depending on where you are or how safe that place makes you feel. Especially within psychedelic therapy, it's very well known that it's not necessarily just the substance, but it is the setting and the environment that shapes the experience dramatically. And this goes all the way to just simple therapy in an office environment. We can change what's happening in our setting. We could get a blanket. We could grab a blanket. We could move from outdoors to indoors. We could turn the music up or down. We could light a candle. We could change the scent. This is the practice of making small shifts to our external world that create a different inner experience. Paying attention to how our external world shapes our inner landscape. If we're craving peace, or I would not say crave, we should be striving to live a life that aligns with the things that we value. And if we value peace in the world, it behooves us to create environments in our life, to surround ourselves with people and places that support peace and well-being. To get comfortable with the idea of accepting your own personal comfort. As Spencer saying, to allow yourself to simply be, to give yourself that permission, maybe the permission that you weren't given at times in your life when you needed that permission to simply be. So we're not trying to build a perfect life here. We're trying to build a supportive environment, almost a cozy environment. As a short little rabbit trail, I wanted to reference coziness. And coziness is probably the closest translated English word, but it's more than simply cozy as in the Pinterest aesthetic sense of cozy. It's embracing a lifestyle of crafting the right space. Because the Danish who live much of the year under what feels like an oppressive darkness, a winter that never ends, have learned certain tricks, what we would call coping skills or coping strategies, to allow you to embrace the things that are difficult and to turn them into opportunities for growth and strength. And so they try to create hygge, to live and embrace this notion of hygge. And the author says that hygge is this feeling of home, a feeling that we are safe, that we are shielded from the world, and that it will allow us to let our guard down. This feeling of safety. Hygge, from a Danish perspective, is about the importance of things like candles, cozy clothes, nice, warm, cozy fabrics, thick blankets, socks. Socks. I could wax eloquent on socks. You know how beautiful a fresh, new, cozy pair of cabin socks are when you put them on your feet and your feet are like, feel safe, feel cozy. Teas or hot cocos or warm beverages. It's about reading by the fire. It's about nature. It's about games. It's that feeling that you have when you're with trusted people in a safe place and your nervous system lets itself down. You know how our nervous system is always asking, am I safe? Am I safe? That feeling of safety in our body is often shaped by these external cues. It's about embracing comfort and security in our bodies. It's about leaning into our body's need to feel safe and to be safe in this world. To not challenge that as a privilege, but to accept it as a right of human existence. Every human being deserves to be safe in their bodies. All of us deserve safety in our spaces. When I did, there's a couple meditation teachers I can think of, in particular one who does our Tuesday night breath work. And she, when she leads meditations, especially some of the yoga nidra practices and the breath work that is about down-regulating your body, there's already the idea or the assumption that you're preparing the space around you. If you have candles, you're lighting it. If you have incense, I'm a big fan of incense. The scents that shape our experiences, leaning into all those things. And she would offer this cue that I loved, where she would say, after all these different things, and as she's guiding the practice, she would say, now, is there anything that you can do right now to make yourself just 10% more comfortable? And do that right now. Just give yourself permission to do that. So let's just practice that right now. Give yourself permission. Is there anything you can do to make yourself more comfortable? Do that. You need to wiggle your bum a little bit. You need to stretch. Your shoulders feeling tight. Lean into that. Allow yourself to feel safe and to supported in your environment. Create a supportive environment that feels like a home base, that becomes a home base for yourself and for your practices. We use the word a lot of times within spiritual communities and the concept of a container, right? So this would be a container, a space for certain practices to happen. C3 is a container. Your breath work, your yoga practices or studios, those are containers for you to be able to engage in certain practices. Why is it easier to feel more blissful and connected during Shavasana in a yoga studio with 10 or 15 other people than it is at home on your laptop, which is laying on the side of your bed? Because the space, the environment shapes the experience. And that's why leaning into space and environment is so important. Neuroscience adjacent research, as neuroscientists are studying some of our reactions to space, there's a term of this hybrid studying called neuroarchitecture. The effect of physical space on our cognitive sense of connection and well-being. That is basically, these studies are basically confirming what we already feel, what we already intuitively know to be true, that the physical environment shapes and affects our behavior and our sense of well-being. A chair, a meditation cushion, a bedroom, a closet, these can become safe spaces. Last spring, and we may bring this back when we were doing our Sacred Earth series, we were developing the Earth altar over here, where each week we would bring pieces and things to the Earth altar. And we talked about the importance of, or the benefit to having an altar of sorts in your home. Things that feel sacred or safe to you, that connect or contribute to your sense of well-being, that connect you with times or seasons of life where you have experienced growth, connect you to the important things in this world. It's a good place to have candles, to light incense, to sit, to be. Things that shape your setting are things like your lighting, from the candles and the warm lighting that you choose. Somebody this morning mentioned the importance of single malt scotch in their environment, in their hygge, their cozy environment. And I mentioned, you notice how you never want to drink a good single malt scotch under bright fluorescent lighting. Why is that? I mean, it feels like sacrilegious to do that. As sacrilegious as drinking it out of a red Solo cup or something. Right? It's not the right space, the right environment. Your lighting contributes to your sense of connection. The sound, whether it's music, quiet, white noise, ambient noise, the sound of the forest. It's your clutter, your surfaces can contribute to a sense of amping up or downregulating you. Your personal comfort, the blankets, the clothes you wear, pillows, socks, hoodies, the things that allow you to feel safe and comfortable. And smells, be it incense or candles, diffusers or flowers. Setting is more than just space, it's about people and inputs as well. Who are the people that are your safe people? The people within that circle that feel safe to you, the ones that you can let your hair down, that you can truly be yourself around. It's about our people and it's about our inputs. This is what we kind of touched on in the first week with silence. We allow so many things into our world, so many inputs, whether it's news or social media, our emails, or regulating practices. So we balance it out with regulating practices instead of choosing yoga or meditation or music as a way of countering that. And the body keeps the score. Dr. Vanderkook says the two most important phrases in therapy and in yoga are notice that and what happens next. Within your yoga practice, if you're doing that, if you feel some discomfort, some dis-ease, some sense of not feeling right in a movement, to notice that and then to make adjustments. To pay attention to how your body is reacting. And yoga is a physical practice of how we should live our life, noticing which inputs in our life are contributing to stress, anxiety. To notice that, and then to say, what next? Does your environment support you and the things that you value? So this is about creating a supportive environment, a home base for your practices. And your setting pairs so beautifully with each of these different ones that we've talked about. In week one, we talked about silence. Silence plus setting creates a safe place, a quiet landing pad for you to begin to engage in your practices. Simplicity plus setting is reducing friction in your environment, the things in your world around you that contribute to friction. And Sabbath plus setting means a rhythm that needs recognizable thresholds and embracing that in our world. Settings about learning how to create these spaces, these small sanctuaries that contribute to our health, to our healing, to our growth inside of loud seasons. It's embracing practices that allow us to feel safety in our bodies, to create practices that nourish us, that support us. I've learned that the body like the book says, often knows and keeps the score, and the body often knows things before we do. And as Ruth often talks about, I'm constantly challenged by the Peruvian shamanic understanding of these notions of moving from your head to your heart, to your gut, and moving from this head space to this heart space, this embodied space, can be so difficult for those of us who live up here perpetually. But it's allowing yourself to listen, to notice, and to notice the cues of what the body is saying. Because the body usually knows before the mind can explain it. It knows when it's bracing. It knows when it's on guard. And it knows, and maybe you've felt this, when it can finally let that guard down. So if you're struggling to find stillness, I want you to hear this very good news. You are not broken. You're responsive. You're human. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it is designed to do. And you don't have to manufacture peace from the outside or from the inside out while everything externally stays loud. You're allowed to work with your setting. You're allowed to crave a little hygge. You're allowed to simply be. You're allowed to be loud. You're allowed to experience your life in the bigness of yourself, to embrace the fullness of your life. You're allowed to have a little hygge, to light the candle, to close the window, turn down the door, turn down the noise, to put on the cozy socks, to tell your body, I am safe here. And I'm experiencing safety. As Anne Lamott says, I love Anne, says almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. So I hope that you would give yourself some permission to unplug for a few minutes, to create safe spaces for yourself. And maybe for you, if you're in a season of life where these words aren't landing as true for you, I can assure you that there are people in your world, in your orbit, be they grandchildren or nieces or nephews or close friends, who are very much familiar with the notion of not feeling safe and secure in their bodies and spaces. Allowing ourselves to be open to these ideas creates a deeper sense of empathy and connection with the world around us. Because we're not simply embracing these principles selfishly so that we can be happier and healthier. We're embodying the sense of peace that we want to bring to the world. We are being the change first that we want to see in the world. We're putting that oxygen mask on ourselves so that we can then assist others who are struggling. So give yourself permission to unplug for a few minutes. Embrace the practices that make you feel safe and supported in your bodies.